All right, so what are we talking about, Dana?
So we're going to be talking about private lending, and why not have the master, tell us about private lending. You have so many years of experience in it, and I thought it'd be good to get, like a private lender's side experience. Like, yeah, I was thinking it'd be good because you have so much experience, and so I guess we can start with just the basic question of, I guess, what is private lending compared to, let's say, when you're just comparing like what's private lending to all the other different types of lending, like with banks and things like that?
Is it pretty much level 1 over here, or like how beginner should I go, Dana?
I think let's do this question. Let's make it beginner because there are some people that are interested and have never lent. It may go a little more advanced as we ask questions.
Okay, everybody with their camera on is kind of a little bit knowledgeable. I see Rocky's here. Is that Stephen and Terry? Do I know Stephen and Terry, or are they brand new?
I'm not sure which Stephen this one is, actually.
Stephen, which one are you? Bring on your camera or your name, at least. You know who. And Terry, I just want to make sure it's Terry and not like,
I'm just driving. I'm listening in the background.
Hey, it's this Terry. What's up, bro? How are you?
He's following in Alex's footsteps. Oh, you're muted.
With his shirt off, like Alex Solga.
Alex, why are you not having your shirt off?
Man. By the way, guys, this is how we roll in council. Alex has got his shirt off. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to join the no shirt club.
It's 25K entry fee. Just come join us, bro. All right, so basic private lending from the perspective of the lender. Essentially, it's a way of producing cash flow on your investment, whether it's funds that you have or funds that you can leverage to lend back out. And you can do this in a couple different ways. You can do a direct lend, right? You can do either an equity lend or you can do a debt lend. So I can lend directly on debt, which is like I give you money at 10%, 11%, 12%. Those are usually annualized figures, depending on how long it's for. Oh, Stephen LeConte, good man. Depending on how long it's for, you might want to amortize those loans, or you might want to do a simple interest. The difference is, if you're doing a mortgage, you might want to put an amortization, and basically what it means is that when they make the payment back, a portion goes towards principal and a portion goes towards interest, right? That's an amortized loan. Everything in relation to the fees, the amounts, 100% negotiable. Doesn't matter what position you're in and so forth, okay? The other way to do a lend is to do a lend on equity, meaning that I'm going to give money for the purpose of perhaps a flip, a quick turnaround, and I want a percentage of the deal. So maybe if it's a flip, I want a percentage of the profits. For example, I take 30% of profits on my deals. I leave the investor, the active investor, 70%. That's how I like to operate, okay? You can also lend as an equity partner, but keep your money tied up in the property and receive monthly cash flow. So a common example of this would be Diana finds a deal. She calls me to bring the money. I bring all the money. She buys a rental property, and now we split the cash flow from the rental property. My money, her deal, etc. We both share in the equity. We both share in the cash flow. There's many, many ways to lend your money. The basic level is to lend your money. The advanced level, which is what we talk about in council a lot, is how to leverage and lend other people's money to create a spread between your cost of funds and your lending. So it's an entire business to find capital and to lend capital. It's not that complicated to just lend your money out. That's a very basic principle. The advanced stuff is, how do I borrow $1 million and lend it out? So what I did was, when I started doing a lot more loans, and by the way, I've never, ever just lended my money. Just so you know, I didn't start that way. I started lending other people's money. That was just something that clicked day one for me. Like, if I can lend 1,000 of my dollars, why shouldn't I go lend 1,000 of somebody else's dollars and make a spread, right? Because that seemed like business. Loaning my money wasn't business to me, right? Loaning my money was just like a hobby. So what I did was, I went out, I borrowed money at a percentage rate, and then I lent it out at a percentage rate. The difference is created profit. So my numbers were 7 and 12. So I borrowed at 7, I borrowed $500,000 at 7, and I lent it out at 12. So I was able to make, do the math, 5% on $500,000 a year. right? So $500,000, 5% of that is $25,000, right? So every year I was making $25,000 because I literally had, you know, one phone call to borrow the money and then a few phone calls to lend the money. So when I tell you that it's not hard to create money, it's not hard if you're willing to actually treat it like a business and actually do the things that most people aren't willing to do. So if you want to print $25,000 right now, it's as simple as borrowing $500 and loaning $500. You can borrow at 7 very easily, and you can lend at 12 very easily. Anything over and above is extra gravy. So like for some of you guys are like, oh, you know, I don't want to get an account, so it costs money. I want to do this on my own. You know, I know Alex was talking about doing the first couple of deals on his own and stuff, and I'm like, that's fine. It's the slow way because of that metric. That'd be the equivalent, Alex, of me loaning out my 50 grand and making 5% on my 50 grand, or even 10% on my 50 grand, right, would equal $5,000 instead of me making $25,000 by simply leveraging somebody else's capital. So you can make 5 grand and it's a higher percentage. Let's say theoretically it's a higher ROI on the capital that you have. But if you're making, let's say 5% on 500 that wasn't your capital, now you're getting an infinite return. So it really comes down to what really is the highest ROI. When it's leveraged, it's incredibly high. I knew that I couldn't live the lifestyle I wanted, drive the Lambo, by making 10% on my money. Because if you do the simple math, guys, let's say my lifestyle I want to have is $100,000 a month lifestyle, or even $80,000. That's $1 million a year lifestyle. I would have to lend out $10 million at 10% to basically make 100 grand, right? Or $1 million a year, which is 80 grand a month. So if you don't have $10 million, the question becomes, how do you then leverage somebody else's $10 million in a safe, responsible, and mature way? That's just going to be a prerequisite. You guys are all tribe members, so I don't need to tell you to be ethical. Anybody outside of that, do it ethically. Don't just borrow, because you end up on American greed. But the general principle then is to just, okay, well, I know I can lend, and the reason why you can lend it and somebody else can't is because of this phone call. Strategic knowledge, strategic relationships, and advantage. It's really simple. If I know that Vince has a deal, but Vince doesn't have money, and I know that Shervin has money, but doesn't have a deal, then I become the gap between Shervin and Vince. I become the confidence. Confidence is what we're lacking, a lot of us. So that's the primary factor. So anyways, I'm kind of going advanced here, but I'll let you pick it up with questions.
Yeah. So I guess the next one would be what, when you receive a deal, like for you personally, what are the steps that you go through to analyze the property, or what do you ask from the person that is giving you this deal to find private lending for, or to be a JV partner, whichever? Or is it the same? I don't know if it's the same or different for you.
No, so I treat them very differently. So I've done private lending on just regular properties that I did VTBs on. So I would buy a house, fix a house, sell that house, and then give a mortgage to the buyer. In that case, I did anywhere from 10 to 20% interest rate. And I would get everything under the sun from that individual because they're a high risk borrower and traditional banks won't give them a mortgage for a reason. So and I know Deanna, you had this question before, I think it was you anyways, with somebody who was wanting to borrow capital and you had all these different requirements and stuff. Yeah, if you're looking for a private mortgage from me, I will ask for everything the bank will ask for and then some. There's a reason they're not giving you money, right? In all fairness. The difference is I'm willing to get to know the person and put a lot of weight on the character of the individual, and the bank isn't. Because I believe the character is actually more important than the credit. I believe the character is more important than the capacity and even the capital that they have. So character is my biggest factor, okay? The bank looks at credit, right? So actually the first thing is capacity, and then credit, and then capital. So they want to know like your 42% total debt service ratio. They want to make sure that you have the credit in play, and then they want to make sure that you've got the down payment, 5%, 10%. That's their formatting. My formatting is backwards. My formatting goes capacity, number one. If you don't make enough money to make the mortgage payments, I can't help you. There's nothing there. There's nothing tangible. But I go capacity, then character is 2. Character is not even an equation for the bank. So I really heavily rely on the character of individuals. And then if they have the right character, they possess that, then I don't care so much about the credit. It's about priorities, right? If we have a good working relationship and I give them a mortgage on their financial acuity will account for a higher priority than their credit card bills. I want to make sure that if shit hits the fan ever again, I'm the primary thing they pay, not the secondary thing, right? So character, right? So again, capacity, character, and then I do capital and then credit. So my credit is the last component. I've approved people with a 500 credit score, a 480 credit score, and guess what? They haven't defaulted. In fact, out of 90 private mortgages that I've done, I've had one technical default out of 90. So does that mean that those are high-risk borrowers, or is the perception that they're high-risk borrowers in the bank size? Mm-hmm. So it's about evaluating risk. Confidence, more ability to evaluate and consume risk. I consume risk more than most people, which means I have a higher appetite for it. I'm willing to have higher level conversations about the actual back end. I don't go into like 2008 financial crisis with, I wonder what's going to happen. I go in with, this is my plan A, B, and C. Mr. Homeowner, if you buy this house and I give you a loan and you lose it, I will take your property, I will fix your property, I will sell your property, and I won't ask you about it. And then if there's anything left over, I will give you the difference. But I will be taking out all my legal bills, all my headache bills, and I will charge you. So we had a lady who did she was behind on her payments for months, wonderful family, but just shitty consumers. Loving family, amazing people, horrible consumers. They would never pay their bills, they never pick up their phone, they would never do blah, 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 blah. Well, they got 3 or 4 months behind, then 5 months behind, then 6 months behind. And then I said, listen, here's the deal. You're selling it or you're refinancing it. That's the only way around this equation. Now, and they did. They ended up refinancing. But because we set up the deal properly at the very beginning of the thing, they ended up capturing about $70,000 of equity. Okay? They paid us $18,000 in fees on the refinance.
How come?
Because they were behind, because I have a $1,500 legal fee, because I have a $200 NSF per occurrence fee, because I have to go and chase them, because I have to do all this stuff. So I was about $9,000, the other lender was about $9,000, and the lawyer was whatever he was. And guess what? They still put $30,000 in their pocket. And they still got caught up. So there is redemption in lending if you do it right from the beginning. There is complete atrocity if you don't. There's nothing but horrible situations. Most lenders are too lazy, too incompetent, or too risk adverse, meaning they're too lazy. That's what risk adverse means to me. Well, Ben, what if it goes bad? If it goes bad, you're a capable human being. Take the property, fix the property, sell the property, recapitalize. But most people who become lenders, they don't want to do any work. So they don't want to go in and fix the mess. They want to go, oh, I'm just a lender. I go, no, I'm a responsible human. If I gave somebody capital, I understand that there's an inherent risk there, and which is why I'm giving them capital at 10% or 15 or 20. If there was a low degree of risk, they would just go to a bank.
Totally makes sense. Anyone have any questions?
This is a good combo. I know you're recording this. I'll need this later. This is sick.
Yeah, I'm recording it. Okay, so I'm going to go with my next question. You said setting up the deal properly. Oh, sorry, Vince, do you want to go?
Yeah,
go first.
just to touch on that. So what security do you have the loan is not secured on a property? It's just a promissory note.
When you borrow the money?
Lending.
I don't lend unsecured.
Gotcha.
Period.
Okay.
Because it's hard to find another Ben Muresan out there. I'll borrow unsecured, but I know me, right? I will not lend unsecured. In fact, I used a cool strategy we're going to talk about on Friday, guys, in council, but I basically got 38 deal requests this morning. 38 with one correspondence. And I got people in there saying, hey, will you lend me $500,000? I'm going to do this unsecured. And I don't do it, Vince, because I understand the inherent risk. And most people asking for unsecured, here's where they fail. They don't offer me enough of a reward to justify the unsecured. I'm not giving you unsecured money for 10% interest. Why? I can just give secured money at 10% interest. I'll give it to you for 30. 35, right? Right, Deanna? 40, okay? Because that's the nature of the business I'm in. Because if shit goes bad, it's unsecured. Now I gotta sue you, sue your dog, sue your cat. I gotta take everybody to court. I gotta go after your assets. So, you know, I'd rather not do unsecured unless somebody's really willing to pony up. My experience has been that people aren't that good at making money. They really are not that gifted at making money. So when they borrow unsecured, they're usually making shitty decisions. I would give unsecured money to Matt McKeever, who's extremely financially responsible with money. I will not give money to like just some random person in beta who wants to do their very first deal, because they're gonna overspend. They're gonna go buy a $6,000 kitchen instead of a $3,500 one because they're too lazy to shop. They don't have the discipline. So if I gave money to somebody in that capacity, I'd want them to already be an accredited investor. I want them to already be a millionaire in their own definition, because then I know that they're responsible with capital. The reason why I get it often actually. People are like, hey, I got an extra 100 grand, you want it? Like, sure, we'll throw it in the mix. It's because I'm financially responsible with what I have, and it's not the only money that I have. So I've always got a backup plan. In fact, I keep about $1 million in cash, like cash. So that it's always available, ready to be drawn on. If anything goes bad, it's there. If I don't do that, then I don't have a high degree of confidence in what I'm doing. Like, my money is always in first, and then I bring my investor capital in a lot of different things. Now, it's not 1-to-1 ratio. If I do a deal, I might put in, 10 grand myself and bring somebody else in for 50 or 100. That's fine. But these days, I like to bring my confidence to the table. Boom. Once you start doing deals and you start leveraging capital, then really take what you have and starting to understand how you can really use that to season deals. So I sprinkle some of my own in there just to make sure that people know I care and I'm somehow vested. But even my own, if you read between the lines of what I'm saying, my own is still never my own.
Makes sense. Anyone else have any other questions?
Is that helpful, Vince?
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, like you mentioned, you want to be first position. So it kind of raises another question. If the bank is first position and you're going to take a second position, you just want to make sure that the percentage is higher, or you just prefer to stay first position, right?
Risk and reward. I'm going to tell you guys something that may radically change your mind about lending. Here's what it is. I don't want to take anybody's property ever, but if I do, I'll make a shitload of money. I don't mind being second or third or 15th, but there better be equity. And if there's equity, I'll take that property. I'll do the work you don't want to do. I'll wipe out TD Bank. I'll keep capital reserves available so I can do a renovation. And now I basically bought an off-market deal. So just go backwards with the equation. You got 30% equity in your deal? I'll give you a second mortgage, no problem. But if you bail, it's my equity. I will drain it for as much as I need to. Now, in power of sale proceedings, it's not a non-recourse, meaning that I still have to return the difference in equity back to the original homeowner. So if the property goes for sale, I have to clear the first mortgage, I have to clear the second one, and then the difference goes to the homeowner. But the first and second will get juiced. They'll get milked for more. There's legal fees, there's maintenance fees. It'll be my management company doing the rehab. It'll be my maintenance company cutting the grass, and we're $200 a cut. So I don't want to go through it, and I don't force people into it, but it's good business when I go through it. I don't go through it often. So if I was a different ethically inclined person, I may force a lot more power of sales. I've only had to do one. But that being said, Vince, I'm very, very upfront with people. It's your equity. If you lose your house, you're going to drain it and you're going to piss away 10, 20 grand. It's totally up to you. I don't want you to do that, but I'm also not going to work for free. That's when I become very much the business owner. Because as a private lender, guys, I don't owe the homeowner shit. Nothing. This is not a landlord. You're not my tenant. There's no board. There's nothing. I have in my mortgage agreement, we have a predetermined, it's called standard charge terms, and it identifies a terms of default. So if you default, we're already predetermined what's going to happen. I don't have to get your permission. I don't have to take you to court. I don't have to do anything. The property simply goes up for sale after 35 days or cure or quit period. That's it. It's up for sale. I put a for sale sign. I call an agent. It's gone. The fact that you're living there doesn't matter to me. Because once it gets sold to a prospective buyer, then I'm just going to get the sheriff to remove it. How do I know? Because when my dad bought his very first house in 1991, he bought it from a landlord, and the tenants did not move out on closing. My dad simply went down there with the sheriff, and it took him about 15 days, whatever it was, or 30 days, and removed those people from the property. They were basically squatters. So I have a lot of rights as a lender that I don't have as a landlord. So I prefer the lender model over landlording for that reason. So you'll make a little bit less money depending how you calculate your return, because I don't have equity gains, right? I don't have appreciation. What I do have is very consistent cash flow with no variable overhead, and I have no management whatsoever. Any management I do have, would be like an admin person who sends a couple letters a month. Hi, you're past due. We're charging you $200. It's not even an expense. It's a business now. So I make money if you're late. So I'll pay the admin $50, charge the homeowner $200, and now it's just part of business. So, we'll make some nice fees on top of stuff when people are late. So what it does is it makes them prioritize with the mortgage versus the Visa bill.
And so when you have, because you have your own standard mortgage terms, is it very different to the terms that the lawyers put up when you do private land? Pardon?
I don't have my own. It's a standard charge terms. Every lawyer has the same one. There's like a standard one for the province of Ontario that you can just utilize. And it identifies terms of default. It's the same one that the banks use. So I got the same document. And
Okay.
it goes on as an addendum or as an attachment to the closing docs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you haven't added anything extra to yours. It's just the standard one.
Nuances, like some of my fees are different than the bank's fees, so I'll adjust it. I typically do a mortgage agreement, which ends up becoming like an attachment to the mortgage standard charge terms. And then what happens is that's there as like additional verification, but the actual mortgage registration document will outline the terms and so forth. So there's two different documents you get at closing. I only worry about the commitment letter. Everything beyond that is up to my lawyer to set up and figure out.
Makes sense. Anyone else have any other questions?
What are the fees that you? Sorry, Dan.
No, I was just gonna say one.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what are the points? Like, how many points do you charge on setting up your private loan? Private mortgage.
I don't charge points. I don't need to. Like for me, I'm easy. Like if I do a mortgage to an individual that's on a VTB, it's 10 or 11% interest. You pay the lenders and legals. So that's it. I just don't charge points. I think it's just a dumb practice for me, because I want to build rapport with my buyer, with my borrower, so they come back over and over again. If you see like a transactional borrower or lender, then you're going to get transactional customers. So this is a personal decision. It's not right or wrong. You just have to make up your mind. A lot of my borrowers now are usually like return customers who are flippers. So I took a whole group of about 10 contractors, and I did a program that was a contractor conversion program, and I converted them into flippers. And those guys came back, and I have guys who bought 10, 15 houses off me, and I gave them financing for every single one of them. So I got a loyal following of guys that flip houses on a regular basis now because of me. I gave them the inventory, and I gave them the capital. So I basically funded their operation, right? And as a result, I don't charge them points. I don't charge them fees. I even do sometimes, like my JV partners, they love it because I do literally no interest, no payments, nothing until the deal is paid out. So there's not even a monthly payment for me. But because I've been in their shoes, and I don't want to drain their cash flow when they're obviously very much focused on getting that property renovated.
So Dwayne has a question. Go ahead.
So how did those relationships evolve? So how did that start? I guess would be my question. So in order to be in that position with you, there would have to be some sort of standing relationship, or like.
Yes. Yeah. So, for example, Henry, when I was flipping a lot of houses, Henry was a local contractor. I hired him to do some rehab work. He did a great job doing the rehab stuff. Turned out he already had like 7 houses. And after he did about 4 or 5 rehabs for me, I said, "Hey man, why aren't you flipping houses?" He said, "I don't know how to, I don't have money, blah, blah, blah." But he had all this equity sitting in these little rentals. So I said, "Well, if I gave you the property, what if you flipped it? Instead of me flipping the deals, what if you flipped the deals? I'll help you sell them. I'll help you put them back on the market. I'll give you good quality inventory, and I'll give you the capital to do it." So we did one, and then it turned into clockwork. He came back every month and a half. He started getting the highest sales in the neighborhoods I sent him to because he was an extremely good flipper. And he did shit in Windsor that nobody had ever done because he's from Toronto. So he started doing like very high-end finishes, very like, faux custom walls and stuff that he was very, very good at. And he started creating an aesthetic in the area that had never been there before. Since that period, people have tried to copy Henry's designs because Henry has consistently gotten the highest sale prices in the neighborhood. He's also been the guy getting the highest rental premiums in every neighborhood because he'll go into a neighborhood that's not conducive to high-grade materials, and he'll put in granite floors and like really high-end finishes, and he'll always find the premium tenants in those areas that are willing to pay top dollar because they get to deal with Henry. So his value proposition is different. He'll spend more, and he's never complained about paying private capital rates. Like he's been paying me 10% on mortgages for years, while everybody else bitches and complains about burring and going back to the bank. He doesn't even burr them. He just keeps them at 10%. But he also gets hundreds of dollars more per door than most people because he does much better work. So he kind of appeases kind of the C-class luxury renter. So it's a C-class neighborhood, maybe even a C-, but he finds the person who's trying to live better than the Joneses in that area, and they want to have something to brag about, and Henry's the guy. So that one was a pre-existing contractor conversion relationship. The other ones I've had were people just who are contractors that I've noticed at like Lowe's and Home Depot, and I'm like, "Hey, I heard you do pretty good work." Or I'd ask around to find who are the good contractors, and I would ask them why they're not flipping houses. And it's usually because they're underfunded or they couldn't find inventory. It's the same problem with every contractor. And then all you need to do is just create a little bit of clarification and perspective. Like, how much do you make in a month? I make 10 grand working on houses. Well, wouldn't you rather just make 25 and cut out the guy who's hired you? Sure, that sounds great, but I lack A, B, and C. Well, I have A, B, and C. Do you want to become a partner with me here on this? So I never had a problem selling my houses. That's why most of them never made it to MLS. Most of them, I never needed a buyer's list. I just found the people who were flipping houses and funded them. I've got a lineup. I've got people that are like been waiting literally for months and years for me to give them deals because my other guys have been so swamped. Because I give them the same grouping of guys. If they buy, I got a waiting list of dozens of people, but if my dude keeps buying and keeps flipping and keeps the relationship going, I always go back to him first. And I use that as leverage. Yep. So I sold my motorcycle to one of those guys, actually. One of my contractors, like, "I want a motorcycle." I'm like, "Well, let me give you this one. We'll do a lot of business together." He's like, "Thank you." So I'm very much relational. Dwayne, that's the answer.
Any other questions from anyone? So I have another question. I kind of wanted to go back towards where you're talking about capacity, character, capital, and credit, specifically with character. I was wondering, like, do you have some specific things in your mind or questions or like when it comes to judging someone's character, or is it just like by feel or like, yeah, how do you judge a person's character?
Yeah, it's if you're trying to quantify how I do that.
Just if you have a process behind it or specific things that you kind of look for.
Yeah, number one, it's a skill set. So there's no like quick answer to doing this. It's a skill you have to develop. But if you want to try to quantify, part of my mindset is trust but verify. So I had a tenant walk up to the house one day and he was smoking a cigarette, and I'm there doing applications, and he walks up around the corner and I said, hey, just so you know, it's non-smoking. And he goes, well, I don't smoke. Done, right? So trust but verify. Hey man, what's your credit score? Oh, like it's in the mid 700s, and it comes back at 5. So that's one thing for me is, does the language match the reality, right? Hey, how much do you make on your job? I make 15. When his pay stub comes back at 12, problem, right? So I always ask very specific questions that are either like yes, no, or a number. It's easy. It's not that hard. If they're completely honest and transparent and you have the actual data, not drama, then you know you're in the right track. The next point is this, data versus drama. If I ask you a question and you give me a story, I already think there's something going on. Hey, do you have a job right now? Well, you know, the thing is, you're just going to lie to me. You're going to make some shit up to make yourself look good. Just tell me yes or no. Just tell me no, I don't have a job. It'd be better than you trying to tell me you do, but you don't, but then you do and you don't, right? So that's the other thing is data versus drama. If you just give me yes, no, boom, boom, boom. And then the other thing is how much, so there's a difference between honesty and transparency. Honesty is telling people the truth when they ask you for it. Transparency is volunteering the truth even when they don't. I want to know how transparent is that individual. Are they going out of their way to give me all the facts, or am I having to pull it out of them? Those are the 3 mechanisms I kind of use to determine a person's character, right? It's data. At the end of the day, character analysis really comes down to a series of data points that I use. It's not a gut feeling. It's not emotions. I think when we start using emotions, it's an immature process for evaluating character. I feel like he's great. That's a bad metric. I can't quantify your feelings. I can quantify, you told me this answer, and then I verified it, and it was accurate. That I can quantify. So overwhelmingly, it's just about the data points that you can accumulate. And if there's enough data points to justify the person is on an uptrend, meaning that they're volunteering information, it's accurate when they give it to me, right? There's no misalignment in their behavior, which is my last point, is I'm very much reading people's body language and behavior. If they seem super nervous, I got to figure out why. They're either a nervous person or they're just straight up lying to me. You can tell when somebody's really like engaged in giving you their honest truth or when they're not. And again, it comes down to a little bit of a skill, but you got to have a little bit of that discernment in your abilities. If not, then you probably shouldn't be lending capital out. Now, here's the truth. Most lending institutions don't do this. They take a series of data points, they don't assess character, and then they make a decision based on data points. The problem with that logic is they don't ever read the human. And all they do is look at a series of ambivalent data points that maybe don't even matter. Well, his credit is only 550. Why? Why is it 550? Well, it's different if it's 550 because he literally decided never to pay a bill in his life and decided to get on drugs, or he was going through a horrendous divorce. His wife opened up 3 credit cards in his name and he didn't find out till 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years later. See, we got to understand the why, the reasoning behind the data points too. Is it a one-off circumstance, which is not likely to happen again? Or is it a consistent behavior of neglect? And if so, then it's a different problem.
Yeah, that was really good. I really actually like that answer you had. Like, that was like a very good way of explaining everything. I really like that.
Give me the most concise information on this call possible.
Anyone else have a question? Anyone want to ask a question?
I've got a question, Diana.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Rox.
Hey, just wondering if you've got several lenders at say 100,000 that they want to put in on a property. How do you structure it so that they all have security and they aren't first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth mortgages? Can you pool them together and put them all in his first mortgage?
You can pool at least 2 of them together. I think you can actually do multiple. The problem with that logic is it's like when you have a property that goes through probate, you now have multiple decision makers on the same mortgage. So if the guy is 2 days late, one person might say, power of sale and foreclose. The next person might say, no, let's give him some time. You might have a split jury type of problem when you have multiple people with the same rights and responsibility. So the better question is, who are these 6 people and should they really be in bed together on the same mortgage? When there are different mortgages, they're entirely different registrations. Every party has their own legal representation, their own rights and responsibilities, and it's very clear who gets what, right? When they're all together, it becomes a kind of a convoluted mess. So I've never had joint mortgage ownership. I don't like that policy. I'd rather be in second and give you first if you're that frazzled about it. I'll charge more, but I'd rather be in second and take on the perceived risk.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking because I've got quite a few, say, RRSP lenders and what have you, but of course they don't have enough for one mortgage. Like they don't have enough to lend for the entire property. So how can I piecemeal it together to utilize all their OPM?
Well, you could find a grouping of other second mortgages and just have them lend directly to those individuals on different parcels, and then those individuals can send you all the money and give you a right to do that as well. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying, do you want to do that? A lot of
I
them want
just want the easiest way to do it.
You want 7 people calling you,
No.
asking who's in charge, who's right, who's wrong. Like it's for me, it's kind of babysitting. If it's experienced investors, like if it's me, Matt, and somebody else, we're not going to call you unless there's an actual problem. But imagine the dude who's bored on Saturday after he cut the grass with nobody to talk to. Allison, what's going on with my mortgage? I was thinking about it because I'm bored as shit. So I want to talk to somebody. And now you got a 2-hour conversation about nothing.
Got it.
Alex is laughing because he is that guy.
So I want to know what you say to somebody who calls you up and is like, hey, what's going on with my mortgage? That's what I want to know.
I don't have those calls ever. I don't have those calls because I pre-qualify the relationship at the beginning, saying, hey, if there's a problem, I'll call you. Once a month, I'll shoot you an email. But short of that, there's no reason to talk. Is that okay? If you need to call me every week, we're probably not a good fit for each other. Oh, how come, Ben? The only good answer I have for you is because I have a lot of deals to do. I'm extremely busy with them. And it's not fair to the growth of the other deals or the other opportunities if I've completed one deal and keep spending time on it. Hey, listen, if you want to talk to me every week, let's just keep doing a deal once a week. Bring more capital in. So what I like to do, Alex, is take my investors out kind of quarterly for a dinner or lunch or whatever, which thanks to COVID, I haven't done recently. But I used to go out for lunches with my guys and girls, because I have both. I have some older ladies who invested with me, and I would take them out for like Greek food, and we just sit there and talk about life and how's my mortgages? Oh, they're fantastic. Okay, wonderful. I told my daughter about you. You're the best investor I ever met. Thank you for that. No problem. So yeah, I've been known to schmooze some old ladies, but it's all good. It's all positive. Everybody's making money, never a default. So plus, I like hanging out with old people better. They've got more wisdom than young people. We got more in common.
There's a lot to chat about. It's fun conversations with them, I have to say.
There's a lot of older folk who would love to have an investor friend and put $100,000 to work with them. But too many people are just too scared to ask even. They just need a buddy. Plus, they're already losing money in something else. Like my lady that was investing with me, she's from Toronto. She's got a few properties. She moved down to Windsor, like an old folks home or whatever. Not an old folks home, but a community. She's self-independent or whatever else. And she's from Jamaica, and she's like, hey, I just want to have somebody I can hang out with. So I pick her up from like the community center sometimes, and we go for coffee. And she invested a few $100,000 with us. And every 6 months, I have some more money. I'm still here. Come by the office. I'm here. So I just teased her. I said, don't bring it in a duffel bag. I can't use it that way. Go through the lawyer. Oh, you're so hilarious. They're also easier to make laugh too.
That's awesome. Anyone else have any other questions?
I just wanted to ask again, like kind of reiterate what Allison was saying, because I have a kind of a similar situation right now where I have, 30 here, 100 there, 50 here. What is the answer to that question? Like, what is the best way to set that up? Should I put it all in one trust and kind of do it that way, or what is the best way to kind of piece it like that?
There is no best way, Alex. You got to figure out what you want. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you just trying to aggregate all the money together in your bank account, or what are you trying to do?
I'm trying to kind of get all the money so I can put it all in one deal. Like, for example, like $400,000 or $500,000, right? So I'm just kind of piece it all together.
You have the deal?
I have the deal, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. But I'm just saying, like, it's the idea is that the deal was coming up, right? And then once I put in the offer, and then we were kind of back and forth. But once that the next step is coming up, how do I put it together that way?
So again, do you have the deal?
No.
That changed quick.
Yeah, you know what? It's because okay, yeah, I don't have the deal.
Okay, that's fine. Just give me that answer. That's a better answer. So you're trying to basically keep this money in play and make sure it's available so when you do have a deal, it's there for you, correct?
That's not necessarily it. It is a good idea what you're saying, and it was a thought that crossed my mind, but that's not what I'm saying. Like, once I do have the deal, how do I actually aggregate all this all this money together and put it all together into that deal? But yes, also having the money liquid, ready to deploy, is also a very good idea, but that's not
Well, so let's pick one. How many investors do you have, and how much do they each have?
I have between 5 to 10 that have kind of given me their verbal commitment, about anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 each.
Okay, and what interest rate do they want?
They all want 10%.
Everybody?
Everybody, yeah.
Okay. Who's got the most?
The one guy, he's got like 140.
Okay. Seems like he'd be my main guy. I'd probably give him the first mortgage at 140. I'd ask him if he's even comfortable sharing first mortgage with other people. Like, the only good answer I have for you is you take all 10 people, you put them on a Zoom call with your lawyer, and have your lawyer break down the rights and responsibilities of being on first mortgage together, and then have them judge, jury, and executioner if they want to be a part of that or not. Some people will not want to split because they're going to want to get their own ILA, independent legal advice. So the one issue I'm going to caution you on is very simple. You may be brokering deals.
And that's illegal, or that's wrong?
It is illegal without a license.
Okay, because
No different than being a realtor without a license. Mortgage brokers fall under the same kind of stipulation. So your lawyer is the guy that this question is for. Hi, what do I need to do so I'm not brokering deals? Number one, because if you're aggregating funds without a license, Ontario Securities Commission will have an issue with that. You can't just borrow money and invest it, folks, without having some very specific things in play. So if you board internally, you got to know how to raise that capital. If you're giving out promissory notes, like, people have to get ILAs, you have to go through a lawyer. I recommend you to, I should clarify, okay? Because if anything hits the fan and you lose that money and you don't have due process procedure in place, they're going to come back and say you swindled them, you took their money, you made false promises, you did all this other stuff, right? So the other reason I like the very clear 1 mortgage, 2 mortgage, 3 mortgage, because every party will have their own lawyer, every party will have their own roles and responsibilities. So again, I'm not a fan of blending mortgages on the same charge. I just think it's cumbersome, complicated, and unnecessary. I'd almost rather say, Alex, how do you then go find 10 deals and put all these guys on a first or all these guys on a second? And the other thing too is it's the education. Why do they all want first, Alex?
Yeah, because security. Right?
Yeah, but second is security too. I think we as investors oftentimes fail to explain the real risk and reward in our investments. If I talk with them, they'll have no problem doing second mortgages, as long as they understand the risk. We just assume second mortgages are hell. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose money. Most of mine are second mortgages. You know why? Because I get to charge 15 to 25% interest on them. So understanding the value, when you say everybody wants 10%, to me, Alex, without picking on you too much, that's a lazy answer. Because that means you didn't ask them for less. You didn't ask them to be second. You didn't really educate them. It was just like, hey, would you hypothetically want to invest?
Yeah, exactly that. You're absolutely right on that.
You gotta talk with them, man. Like really talk with them one-on-one and get 10 people on a spreadsheet with how much they really want, with what position or risk they really want. I'll give you an example, Alex. My house here, let's say it's worth $1 million, okay? Let's say that my first mortgage with TD Bank is $500,000. And I came to one of your guys and said, hey, would you give me a second mortgage for 50? Is there a lot of risk there?
No.
You got $500,000 of equity. You're putting on a second for 50. There's a lot of juice in this deal, right?
Yeah.
You go to another guy. Would you give me a third mortgage for 50?
Yeah, it's a lot of equity there.
Would you give me a fourth mortgage for 100?
I don't know.
Well,
This is outside of my domain, so I have no idea what.
Let me give you the honest truth. The only difference is how much equity is in the deal and how much ahead of me needs to get paid out before I get paid. So the first mortgage is TD Bank. That's $500,000, right? Done.
Yeah.
Okay. There's $500,000 of equity. Second mortgage, he gets his 50. There's $450 left. Third mortgage gets his 50. There's $400 left. Fourth mortgage has 100, right? There's 300 left. The market would have to drop 30% before he would lose a dime. We understand the logic here?
Yeah.
That guy would also probably charge me 20% interest. So my point to you guys is, depending on their risk tolerance, not yours, they may or may not want to do the deal. See, I like risk. I enjoy it. I make money with risk. I make money off other people's fear. So what I would do is this, something I want you guys to remember. Your investor, their risk tolerance will never exceed your own. If you're scared shitless about doing a second mortgage, none of them will do it. They can't be more courageous than you. You're the guy who's the professional. You're the guy who comes on these calls, right? I'll do a 10th mortgage, Alex, so long as I understand the risk, the responsibility, and I've done my calculation, understand general probability of success. Like I know if there's 300 grand left over, maybe 100 grand gets eaten up in fees and bullshit and whatever else, right? There's $200,000 left. If I'm the fourth mortgage, I hope this guy bails on this deal. There's 200 grand I can squeeze in fees and whatever else I need to do. So it becomes math, not emotion. That's the only real answer to give you. Anything else is going to be very much how you feel about fourth mortgages. Wayne?
So, so you're not worried about getting up to 100% loan to purchase price as long as the loan to value is there.
I only ever care about the loan to value in relation to the current market conditions. Because Dwayne, if there's equity in the property, I don't care. I give 100% LTV all the time. Even to my JVs, I give 100% LTV. The only reason somebody wouldn't is because they don't understand risk. They're using 100% LTV as some scare tactic that they really don't understand what it means, but they heard it's bad, right? Or there's no equity in the deal, which means that the risk is high of them losing money if a default occurs. If you have equity in the property, your equity will get drained for me to cover my position. So the only question I have, is there sufficient equity to cover my fees and costs in proceeding with the power sale?
So when dealing with traditional lenders, they'll only go up 80% loan to value. And if you come to them with a purchase and sale agreement, right? Say the house is sold.
Let me clarify a few things. That's incorrect. So for a traditional lender subsidized by CMHC will go to 95% loan to value.
Yeah.
So even 100% loan to value. So my middle name is CMHC. CMHC is basically like a second mortgage. They charge you 3 points 3% premium to give you the other 15 or 20% that the bank isn't willing to go to, right?
Yep.
And the reason they do that is because they're basically a government insurer. So the bank will do 95% subsidized through CMHC, or even 100. They used to do 100% financing. They used to do purchase plus improvements, which is like 110% financing, thanks to CMHC. So what I'm telling you guys is CMHC is in the CMHC business. I'm in the second mortgage business, Alex. So for me, the experience of having been a second lender, I have a lot of appetite for seconds, thirds, and fourths. But if you've never done one, it can seem very scary. It can seem like you're subservient to the first, which you are. But that comes at a price. So yeah, Dwayne, some banks, this is why when you put 20% down, you bypass CMHC. The reason why a lot of investors do this is because you as an investor don't qualify for the CMHC guidelines. CMHC isn't here to make you a rich investor. CMHC is here to help people buy a house, right? That's their prerogative. It's never been their intention or their role to help investors facilitate real estate purchases. That's why when you go to a bank with 20% down, it's one less approval you need to get. And the bank goes, well, if there's 20% equity, I'm not that concerned. Guess why? They'll take it back. They'll get rid of it. Does that make sense? I used to buy houses from CMHC. And then when CMHC didn't want to do it, the next person would have been Genworth, who's another insurer. They're not the only one. CMHC has derivatives. There's other companies like CMHC who perform the same function.
Yeah, unfortunately, Genworth isn't playing along with the new rules of the CMHC.
Genworth doesn't need to play with anybody's rules. That's Genworth. CMHC is CMHC. Genworth is Genworth. My point is, I've done this deal. I had people come to me and say, hi, I'm buying this property with equity. It's not my deal. This other guy's giving me a mortgage at 10. Would you give me a second? My first question is, how much equity you got? And if there was substantial equity, I've done mortgage deals, guys, 25% interest second mortgages for 5 years. I love those deals because it's interest on interest on interest. You realize at 10% money per annum, that homeowner will pay off approximately 10% principal over the course of 5 years. $100,000 loan in 5 years, there's still 90 grand outstanding. $100,000 loan is $988 per month is the payment. It equates to almost $12,000 a year. It's almost $60,000 in 5 years, of which $10,000 of 60 would have gone towards principal and $50,000 towards interest component. This is why compound interest works, because I make 50 grand on the same money over and over again. You want to be the lender, trust me, the compounding benefit is huge in your favor. All I needed to do, Dwayne, was get to like $2 or $3 million of lent capital, because at 10%, money doubles every 7 years. It's called the rule of 72.
Yep.
Every 7 years, that money doubles. So it goes 2 million to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64. All I got to do is just let it keep running, keep investing.
And when you said equity and loan to value, when you're saying that, you're talking about all the equity that a person has. Like, we're not just talking about the equity on that house that they're talking about. You're talking about their total equity, right? Compared to loan to value being just the one that you're appraising or wanting to do the deal on. Is that how you're making the difference?
So loan to value to me is on a specific asset.
Yeah.
A piece of property. I don't know what you're referencing, but equity could be the equity in that deal, which is the difference between the loan to value, the value, and the outstanding balance, or total personal equity, based on their net worth and other real estate that they may own. So I don't know how you're like.
I was wondering which way did you mean it? So when you were talking about equity, you just meant the equity that's left on that specific property that the deal is happening on.
Yeah. I'm also, like, as a lender, guys, I'm also going to get personal guarantees on everything. Just in case you bail on me, I'll go after everything else you have, your cars, your vehicles, any other assets that you own, your RSPs.
And
so there's a lot of protection for people who do this right.
when you're going, like if you were to go through that personal guarantees, is that a separate thing that you have to do when you're doing the mortgage, or is that just when you're going through a foreclosure, you're able to go to people's personal guarantees?
Yeah,
Or
so
that's
it would be a power of sale, not foreclosure. Foreclosure is an American process. It doesn't really happen here. A power of sale, if their name is on title and they go through their primary name to purchase the property, I still do a personal guarantee, but I absolutely do one if they buy in a corporation, 100%. And that would be part of the original mortgage documentation. I've even done personal guarantees for third parties. So like a guy wants to buy a house, he really doesn't have a whole lot of value there, whatever. And I had a guy who was like his friend in Windsor sponsored the loan for him. His friend was a credit-worthy borrower. Well, this guy became a shitbag and he took off. Like straight up just took off to Toronto. So I called the other guy, I said, hey, congratulations, looks like you just bought a house. And he had to go and take it over. He turned it into a rental. He covered all the fees. And a few years later, he sold it at a profit. But I'm really, really happy that I put him on the line too, right? Now, he wasn't happy with his friend, but I had a little bit of indication that he wasn't that tethered to Windsor. I was like, I'm like, do you know anybody? So anytime you can ask this question, do you have anybody that would sign the loan for you? Why not? Get a mother, father, parent, guardian, friend, spouse, get somebody. Anytime you can, get more. And here's my pitch. Oh, it's not because I need to go after their house. Just in case something happens to you, I want another contact person. Something happens to you or your job is somebody else who can step in and help momentarily. Meanwhile, one little signature on my page saved me on that deal from having to go chase this guy. Basically, the keys just went over to this other guy, and then he took care of it.
Yeah, it's a very good tip. Anyone else have any other questions? Anyone want to ask another question?
Is this combo too high level? Am I losing folks, or is this like exactly what you're looking for? Remo?
Everyone likes it? Yeah, I've also seen it as very valuable information. I guess we could do, are you okay to do one more question?
Yeah, I got a few minutes before I got to go. Sure.
Okay. So then I wanted to just understand what is the difference between, you say, capacity and capital? How do you differentiate the two?
Yeah, so capacity is your ability to make payments in relation to the current income. So the banks will use a 40 or 42%, what's called total debt service ratio, TDSR. And basically what that means is if I make $1,000 a month at my job, I can only spend up to $420 on my mortgage, taxes, insurance, and heating. Those are the 4 elements. So I do the same thing. I look at somebody's gross income, and I want 42% to go towards the house. Now, in total debt service ratio, you have to subtract all other monthly credit obligations as well. So if you make 10 grand a month, but yet you have $2,000 in expenses, car payments, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, now I only factor that you make $8,000 a month. I'll take 42% of that number, and then I have to figure out, minus your insurance, your taxes, and your heating, what's left over, and that is the monthly mortgage allowance that I will allow you to go to. So if you have $1,000 monthly mortgage allowance, and you want a $100,000 loan, that's $988 per month at 10% interest, approved. If you want a mortgage that's at 11% interest, not approved, because the payment will be higher than $988 per month. I'm trying to do the reverse engineered calculation on what's the highest allowable monthly mortgage expense that you can have in relation to your overall debt. Now, if you want to get creative, what I've done is help people consolidate. So I help them go, borrow from here, pay this off, knock this down, get rid of this, restructure that, and then you qualify for this much more. There's only a couple of levers, reduce expenses, but I won't go above 42%. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is when people have, when they have non-disclosed income. I have a part-time job at Chuck E. Cheese. They pay me cash under the table. Okay, great. Can't put that on their form. I pull line 150 from their T4. and their notice of assessment. So when I do a mortgage deal, this is what I get in documents. I get, somebody can put this in the comments if you want. I get 2 years of income tax filings, the entire filing. I'm really much looking for line 150. I'm also looking for anything that would represent a wage garnishment or anything that's on there that would reduce from there, right? So that's that. I do not include any government income, really, that's not long-term stable. So ODSP, yes, but I won't include things like child care benefits and stuff like that. Because the child's 17, guess what? Gone next year, right? So 2 years, and then 2 years of NOAs. The reason why I want NOAs is to confirm the taxes have been paid. I want something from the government saying your taxes are up to date. Big takeaway as a lender. If somebody borrows money from you, but they owe the CRA money or any other crown entity includes anything government, CRA, child care benefit, like if you owe, what do you call it, spousal support, okay? If that ever goes to court, that stuff supersedes your mortgage. You'll get bumped into second position and the government will take first. Just so you know. So it also affects wage garnishment. So if somebody has that on their piece, the government will not allow you to register a first mortgage charge on that property. On closing, you're gonna get an ugly surprise saying, are you willing to take it's called taking a, what's the word here? Understatement, basically, that you're willing to be behind this. So you have to sign that you're willing to be behind this should it ever go to court. Crazy. So NOAs are important. I want basically 3 pay stubs or 4 pay stubs, recent ones, to confirm your earnings. Okay. I want a list of every creditor item that you have. I want your credit card statement, your card statement. If you own an asset, I want to see the purchase documents to know that it's in your name. All right. I want to see all that stuff. I want a job letter confirming you have active employment. Okay. I'm going to pull a credit report. I used to use rentcheck.ca. Rentcheck.ca is available for landlords, and you can also use this for lenders. Rentcheck.ca. Okay. So that's basically it. I want every asset and every expense line item. Oh, not to mention photo ID, 2 copies.
Wow, that's really good. That's a lot of information. Like Deanna's like, oh my God.
So, okay, now you see, if somebody volunteers this stuff, they're probably serious. Am I right, guys?
100%.
If they go, I'm not giving you 100 grand based on your say-so, right? Show me the money, show me the income, show me the qualification. So I was turning around. Here's what I was doing, guys. If you want to get into this business, I was doing an online pre-qualification based on the TDSR. So they could go to my website, fill out a form, and they would show them like pre-approved or not pre-approved based on the TDSR number, okay? I'd give them a conditional pre-approval. Once we got a conditional pre-approval, I would start sending them inventory. They would select the house that they wanted, and then I would go ahead and do a final firm application approval. So I would go through request documents, paperwork, blah, 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 blah. The people who volunteered everything up front got a fast track to my pre-approval process. And I used to sell 10 houses, 12 at a time. I would just start lining up. I got 15 pre-approvals. I got 10 houses. I'd go back. Hey, what kind of property are you looking for? Boom, 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 boom. Here's the property. Line up, connect, sell. I also gave them custom finishes. So they got to choose 4 paint colors, 4 kitchens, 4 flooring options, 4 fixture options. So they can customize A, B, C, D in their home to get whatever they wanted. So I was basically selling renovated, custom color option homes to folks that couldn't get a mortgage with financing, 100% financing, as long as they paid for all the legal and closing costs, which were $4,900 was my cap. And I did about 60 of those. This is way before you guys ever knew who I was. Way before I was on social media. Way before I had Tax Flow Tribe. That was just me working, grinding. It took me a couple years to do that.
So that would be kind of a hybrid of a rent to own.
Yes, except for it's a vendor take back program with a custom builder option. So imagine a VTB, But then imagine you're also doing custom rehabs for folks at the same time.
So, and this was with private money or your own money?
All my money is private money.
Yeah.
So what I would do is go sell the property to them. I would go raise a first mortgage for 75% loan to value. Follow me? And I would give them a second mortgage for 25% loan to value. So I got a whole bunch of first mortgages with private lenders at 10% for 5-year terms on fully renovated houses that they're extremely happy with. I got a guy who brought in $8 million for this project. We used to call it the Forte Families Home Ownership Program. And we did a lot of them. Actually, I was doing them back to back before I had an office, like, and we grew into it, but we did a lot of these things. And they were great until the market got too hot and every one of you guys started buying up my inventory in Windsor, and then all the investors took over, and there was less affordable housing for my actual families who needed them. So when the market cools off again, I will be going ham on Forte Families again. We were just getting ready for expansion into Chatham, Sarnia, and London when the prices started driving up, and then the mortgage monthly payments became unsustainable for our families. But I liked that program a lot because I was able to help amazing people, get them into home ownership. And the cost of owning a Forte home, which was completely renovated, was about $200 more than renting next door. What I'll probably do is I'll do a case study on this maybe for you guys or for council and throw it out there and kind of go over this like more in detail. But yeah, we did these back to back. Like we always had 5 to 10 houses being renovated for families. They never hit the MLS. They're all private sales.
I'd love a case study on that.
Yeah, totally. That's
we're
amazing.
working on a rent-to-own business model. So that's.
These are the conversations we talk at the higher frequency, by the way. So Allison knows, Vince knows. I'm going to keep reminding you guys, but these are the combos you need to get into. The very basic buy one house combos aren't going to help you really create a lot of lasting wealth. You need to get beyond the 1s and 2s and 3s deals. And like, how do we create this program maybe in your town, Wayne? How do we do 10 of these at once, 15, 20? Like really, guys, I keep saying it. Y'all need to join council. Straight up. There's a lot of opportunity out there. Just don't play small. You can try to do this. You can do a couple of them, but why not do 20 or 30? It's not that hard. Diana's doing these calls because she recognizes the value of raising capital and dispersing it. So she's probably the closest person to like understanding the spread because she's asking these questions and she's doing the legwork to put this together. So I see her doing it, which is amazing. But like, why not do more? Pick a town. East Coast has got tons of cheap houses. Right? And nobody's in East Coast here, but East Coast has tons of stuff. You could be going out there and cranking out 10, 20, 50 of these things. Create a real opportunity, but you need to go and think, how do I raise $10 million, not 100 grand? That's what these conversations should be. Just like we were talking about at the mansion there last weekend, right? Council's like, how do I raise 10 million, 20, 30, 40, and then how do we deploy them into a lot of deals, big deals? Even if you do single families, the problem isn't doing single families, it's only doing one single family. That's the problem. I did 250 single families. I have no problem with singles. Do you like singles or apartments? I love singles for a lot of reasons. Risk and reward, it does not get better for me than single families. They're highly liquid, they're highly accessible, they're easy to fund, easy to sell, easy to rent. I'd rather own way more singles than multis. But it's a different game, it's a different metric. You know, there's a book out there called Becoming Wealthy One Single Family House at a Time. I read it 10 years ago, and I stopped thinking about multis after I read it. Everybody glorifies more. I don't want more. I want more of the right thing for me. My thing is lifestyle. You guys, got the Lambo, the car. I don't like stress. I do not want to strain myself. I've already strained for 10 years. I don't want to do shit I don't enjoy. So I have no desire to go and buy a fourplex and run around and deal with tenants who can't wipe their own ass. Like, I'm zero. So I'm always looking at a better way to conceptualize and grow a business. So that business, Dwayne, by the way, we got some payouts recently, but it was spitting out 25, 30 grand a month and completely passive. So that kind of affords us to do whatever we want to do on that. It's not millions, but it's 300, 400 grand a year, right? Completely passive. Everything else is gravy, right? So the active deals, which is about 100 grand a month, that's again, that's active. That's the team runs that. I don't get involved in that nonsense. I let them do all that stuff. And I'm just about creating these pocketed businesses that work well. If you can get a business spitting out 200 here, another one 200 here, another one, like you're loving life. It's not that hard to make $1 million a year and not work that hard. But it's hard as hell to make 100 grand a year if you don't have the right tools, training, and support. That shit's hard. Trying to make money with one house at a time is too difficult.
And if you build it once, you can do it again.
This is a big topic in council. It's like, it's not about addition, it's about multiplication, right? If you do 1, then do 10. And if you do 10, then do 100. Don't do 1 and then 2 and then 3 and it works and you do 4. Like, we consistently play small because we're afraid. I think some of us are so afraid of just being right. It's like, holy shit, this works. I can't believe it. It just seems too easy. Like at the higher level, like my mentor Mark does not work that hard. Be very honest with you guys. He sits by the pool all freaking day. He's on the phone a lot. He's having calls with people, but he spends more time with us mastermind guys than he does on his business. Because it's all about setting it up, being the magician, not just the mule. And he understands the biggest component of the magician is multiplication. A lot of investors go wrong by building their portfolio one deal at a time. If I find one that works, now I'm gonna literally go and build a system to do 10, 20, 30. Everything I do, don't you see how fast Tribe grows? I'm not trying to go out there and hustle one person at a time into alpha. Fuck that, it's way too hard. Like we're doing webinars with Tribe and we're getting 30, 40 people at a time into alpha. That's the goal, right? So it's all about the multiplication factor. There's plenty of business for everybody. What there seems to be a deficiency of is creativity. That's the big thing that we're all deficient, is creativity. How do we
and mindset, I feel like we're limiting ourselves a lot.
Yeah, we're so, like, guys, a lot of us, we have a massive, like, internal scarcity problem. Like, huge. Our whole life we're dealing with scarcity. There's only so much this, there's only so much that, there's only so much money, there's only so much jobs, there's only so much this. Like, there's really no scarcity. Scarcity is a perception. The moment we shift to an abundance mindset, and that's a gradual change, by the way, it doesn't happen like that. That's why Dana's putting on these calls, because slowly her mind is developing. Vince, right? Allison, because the moment you shift to abundance, I could sit here and we could make $10 million just on this Zoom call by figuring out a couple of key things. It's not that hard. We create a task force. We go to work on specific items. We find a huge opportunity and we execute like crazy. But most people lack the confidence to ever get into this room to really focus on growth. So when we were hanging out last weekend, driving the cars and stuff, that was fun. We had a conversation about raising $40 million as a side fund, and then deploying that capital into larger multifamily deals, and then approaching 1,000 to 2,000 units as a team, and then collectively having like a legacy fund. None of that shit is actually that hard. It's only hard if you're trying to do it by yourself, and you have no confidence to actually pull the trigger. Because again, my strength, it might be your weakness, and vice versa. I have capital to deploy. I love raising money. In fact, I love driving my Lamborghini to investors' houses and raising money. Like that to me is a common thing now. So if you struggle with that piece, great. Let me do that. You go find deals. Or you go and do the renovation. Or you do the project management. Or you do the deal analysis. Or do something, do anything other than, oh man, I gotta go get one house. So one house, Dwayne, is about, I had this conversation yesterday. Well, I had to prove it to myself. You don't have to prove anything to yourself, guys. If you think you have to prove if you can do this, that means you have no faith in the process. That means that you think for some reason you're special or different. If I can buy a house, and Vince can do one, and Diana can do one, and Allison can do one, anybody can do one. You don't have to prove it to yourself. You're not worse or better than any of us. We're all the same. So the thing is, it works. The question is, are we gonna move in faith and really make it work? Or are we gonna sit there like, oh, it's like every one of us is fighting the same limiting beliefs. It's like a rite of passage. I better get through those beliefs. Like, why not just hop over them?
That's so true. It's like, I feel like a lot of people have this mentality, like the hustle, like I need to like suffer. And if I suffer, that means I'm going to be able to go higher in my, whatever I consider my success to be.
But why, like, again, your parents struggled to put food on the table. Why should you have to? Is it noble because you have to because they did? Shouldn't there be a progression of life? Shouldn't it get easier as we develop? Shouldn't what people did for us in the past help us do more today? Think about your kids. Don't you want to give your kids a better life than what you had? If they have exactly the same life that you had, don't you feel you didn't do your job? How do you think I feel when people are like, I want to struggle and I want to do one deal? Well, then what's the point of having me in your life? You're not learning from me. You want to go through the same process. Like, get to where I got in 2 years, not 12. It's all very doable. It's just a matter of, do you really believe it's possible? And are you living in faith or fear? I think so many of us are living in fear because we're crippled by our own little reality. When my buddy Tim Brotz does 3,600 freaking units in 6 years, and he creates his own world that has nothing to do with my reality or yours. And he had no silver spoon. Again, he just was like, fuck you guys, I'm going to do my thing. Diana could do one of these calls once a day and probably she could probably raise 100 grand a day doing these calls. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, Ben, oh my God, thank you so much. Yeah. It was just like a combination of two, you know, I feel like we got private lending in and a little bit of mindset at the end. I feel like I got so much good knowledge. And I think same thing with everyone else. Everyone else, I'm sure, enjoyed all the information and all your knowledge, Ben. You're always so knowledgeable. I love chatting with you. Any little conversations I feel like we have, I'm always learning. Like, I feel like you just have so much.
These are great, actually. I'm glad that you had all tribe members, Dan. Now let's talk about doing more of these. I didn't know what this was all about, but this is cool, man. Let's connect on this. I know you wanted to do some more. Let me see if I can support you, especially with tribe members. If this is something that works and you guys like it, these little incubator conversations seem super efficient. And everybody here is either in council or you guys are in the alumni group. So you're all qualified to be in this room. If there was a bunch of betas, it would be harder, a little bit different kind of combo. So I don't know how these usually go, but this one's awesome. I think this is
really awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to share with you guys. Plus, nobody really ever asks me questions like this. You guys realize that? There's never really like an interview thing. It's always like, Ben, just come on and prepare the lesson. So I don't even know where people's minds are at half the time. You know, I have to pull feedback out of the room a lot. You ever notice that?
Yeah. That's why that's one thing that I like about this is and everyone just has different points of view. So it's just nice to hear, because something that maybe I may not think about, someone else will think about. And then you start, like, I love that whole thing of just understanding where people are and people's points of view, because you can just learn so much of everyone also.
Right. Shapiro's asking for the spreadsheet. Bro, you're going to have to go and see our buddy over there and get it from him in Toronto. I don't do spreadsheets. Whatever spreadsheet you want, man, at my office, because you're part of the clique, so that's awesome. Hey, Brother Hirsch is on here. Brother Hirsch, I haven't seen you in a minute, dude. How you been? You over here? Come on, Hirsch. I see you there. Anyways, this is a valuable combo, man. Maybe share it back with the group or share it out to us. I think this would be great qualified conversation to put back into the alumni group.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we've recorded it, so I hope this one actually records, because our last one didn't end up recording, which was sad. I don't know what happened. But thank you so much, Ben. I know we all got a lot of value out of this, and yeah, just thank you so much. It was great. A lot of knowledge.
You're welcome. I'll let you guys get back to it. I'm gonna go crank out a workout. Be blessed. Stay focused. Nice seeing everybody here.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ben. You're so awesome, man. Thank you, Diana.
You guys.
Yeah, bye, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you
Diana,
so
for setting it
much,
up.
everyone, for coming. And yeah, on to the next meetup. We'll see when the next one is.